2nd, 2021. It's nice to see people here, actually. That's a bit of a change. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of order. 2 or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. And again, this meeting now is being conducted in accordance with the relaxed guidelines from Governor Sisolak. We will still make this available on the internet for anyone who wishes to watch it remotely. We will also still be taking public comment via call-in during the appropriate periods of time. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the invocation. We have Pastor Deborah Downs here from Christian Center Foursquare Gospel. Please rise.
Please join me in prayer. Incomprehensible God, you make yourself known to us. Impassible I am, you lower yourself and enter into our suffering. Undefiled perfection, your grace and forgiveness are endless. Divine Judge, your mercy manifests across the globe. And loving Father, your children delight in your presence. Father, we thank you for your sustenance and provision for our community over the last year. Your spirit of unity was evident in our midst as we lifted one another up and weathered life's challenges with encouragement and integrity. We see your life-giving power as our city's passion for community and hospitality is rekindled. As our businesses reopen, churches reconvene, and community gatherings resume, we are ever grateful and humbled that you are mindful of us. We ask for your continued blessing and protection over our city, officials, law enforcement, frontline responders, and our citizens. We pray for a seamless transition for our new members and city officials. Your word states that you impart your wisdom to all who ask without discrimination. And so we agree and ask on their behalf that you give them wisdom and discernment for decision-making and in stewardship of our resources. Guide our thoughts, words, and deeds towards one another as they might bear witness to our love for you and for our neighbor. Grant us your temperance and peace this evening as we faithfully strive towards excellence in our duties and responsibilities. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Downs. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, Pastor Downs, thank you for your kind words and encouragement. It has been a difficult year for many of us, I know that. All right, we do have a public announcement. Ms. Waits.
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Waits, and I'm here this evening to announce that we have a Pollinator Week that we are recognizing and celebrating here in Boulder City. Our project and event that we're holding is called the Pollinator Path of Boulder City. It gives all of the citizens, businesses, parks, and recreation the opportunity to become an official stop on the Pollinator Path so that we're able to recognize, I wanted to make sure I didn't have it upside down. We're able to recognize the hard work not only of our gardeners, but also of the pollinators that make all of the things that we eat and enjoy so beautiful and sustainable for us. This is a copy of the Pollinator stop sign from last year, and effective tomorrow, we'll have our new stop signs that will be out to give to you. And you'll be able to go online, and we'll be also posting to the city website so that you're able to go there and get the information. Each day we have different projects and pollinators that we'll be recognizing in that time. But I really wanted so much to thank the mayor and the city for giving us a proclamation for this. This is our second year that we get to celebrate. So we have a lot of fun activities going on, and one of those in the evenings when you're driving home, you'll see the bistro lights over Arizona Street are either yellow or orange, and that's in honor of our pollinators. We're the only city, we're actually the only project that's being held for the state of Nevada, and this is a worldwide project. Each year for 14 years, the Pollinator Week is recognized. So I wanted to read real quick what I sent out, and everybody is reading this around the world. So it says, hello from Boulder City, Nevada. We're the little town that built the Hoover Dam, rich in history, traditions, landscapes, and gardens. We're proud to be clean and green, and we love our pollinators. For Pollinator Week, we're creating the Pollinator Path to Boulder City. Each resident can participate by featuring their yard or garden with plants, flowers, or trees that support pollinators, and in turn receive a really cool pollinator stop sign. Okay? Oh, and a spot on our pollinator map. If you go to pollinator.org, you can actually see all of the above. So we are kicking off the celebration. We've been organizing, we're preparing seed kits, signs, materials for the participants. During the week, you're able to cruise throughout town, see the beauty and hard work of our pollinators at home, gardens, parks, and landscapes. Everyone's encouraged to join in daily activities. We have scavenger hunts, evening lightings of the pollinator support lights, seed exchanges, and special focus on particular pollinators with fun facts and more. We are headquartering this at the Boulder City Community Gardens. We've been working very hard at the gardens for the last 4 or 5 months, and with daily activities and projects that you can take and make are available in the lobby of the museum. So I just wanted to show you guys the beautiful proclamation that I appreciate so much, and we will be taking a photo of that and putting it online so everybody can appreciate that too. Just from the bottom of my heart, and all of us working on Pollinator Week. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to our initial public comment period. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. And as always, we ask people to be civil and concise in their comments. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Ms. Newby?
Good evening, Sharon Newby. I'd like to comment on agenda item number 10. Judy Hoskins has lived here a long time, but I've only lived here a few years, but I feel like I've known her forever. We've spent many hours sitting at tables passing out information. Judy was chosen by luck of the draw, some luck. 4 months later into her time, COVID hit and everything shut down. But Judy and the council carried on to do the best they could for Boulder City. Councilmember Judy Hoskins has touched many lives during her approximately 20 months on City Council. Whether it was getting a vaccine appointment for an elderly person down the street from me that only has her son to take care of her, or helping a business person trying to buy a property, or working on the water leak above from her where she lives, or a place for the chamber. I could go on and on about that. Judy tries to find a win-win solution for all the issues that she dealt with on council. Besides all her work on the COVID response committee, she made masks and gowns for the hospital and assisted living centers. Judy's a detail person who is a stickler for correct addresses and numbers that add up correctly. She read, researched, and studied all those hundreds of pages of support materials. Some of the items that she dealt with were historic preservation. She voted to rezone the government park. During the pandemic, she helped to create grant money to small businesses, emergency aid, and the senior center. She supported additional solar contracts, which accounts for millions in our budget. Judy voted to reduce energy charges by 3% and the water service charges by 10%. She voted to fund many RDA projects such as St. Christopher's Church, Subway, Sands Motel, Red Mountain Plaza, Dam Roast House, Big T's Cantina, and Very, Very Serious. During her time on council, she voted to add 2 police lieutenants positions and a deputy fire chief. She supported the adding the mounted police to the unit to the department, and she was involved in 3 employment changes, which ended up with BC having a new city attorney, a new city clerk, and a new city manager. For the pool project, Judy proposed the sale of track 350 with a different spin. Since the track had been for sale since 2010, she proposed that the city start over. She suggested the developers submit an RFP, and RFPs were submitted from leading companies and being looked at now, I'm sure. Judy supported ballot questions 1 and 2. Both ballots passed happily, so BC has started the process for a new community pool. I think her work probably has influenced every Boulder City department. All of this has been hectic and demanding for all of us. I'm sure it was stressful, but had its rewards. Now Judy will be sailing off to new adventures. I wish you smooth sailing and thank you for all that you have accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in public comment? Mr. Reagan?
Hello, Matt Reagan, longtime citizen of Boulder City and chairman of the Airport Advisory Committee. If there is one, we haven't met in over a year because right now we don't have anybody we don't have enough people on the committee to even have a quorum. And so that's the first issue, is that we really need to have that. The second issue is that today we're going to be making a decision on the tower. And as someone who has been in the aviation industry my entire life, and that goes all the way from as a professional pilot to flying small airplanes, having a degree in aviation management, and also being married to an air traffic controller for 25 years, I know something about aviation. And what I find troubling about these decision-making is that this has never been presented to the actual users of the airport, and being able to present their positions as far as, do they think this is a safety issue? Why do we need it? And I'm not here to make the argument that we do need it or do not need it. That's really, I think, should be better researched before we proceed on. This, whatever the reason that this keeps going on, it keeps coming up, and why, I have no idea. But I think that the users of the airport really need to have some sort of would like to have, obviously, have some say on this whole, whether we're going to have a tower or not. Like I said, it doesn't mean that I'm not here to make an argument that I'm against it or not. But one thing that I am concerned about, and please forgive me if I am not here saying this to insult you, because all 5 of you are very intelligent people who have their own level of expertise in each one of them. But one thing that I do know that you don't have an area of expertise is aviation. And so that each 5 of you should rely on people who actually do have an area. And like Kurt Goodfellow, who's the vice chairman of it, is a very experienced pilot and also has a lot of knowledge in aviation. And I think that's the only 2 of us that are now on the Airport Advisory Committee. So we'd like to get some people involved, get the users, and be able to have a discussion on should we or should we not have the tower. Because quite frankly, some of the discussions that I've heard so far it's not, I think that people need to become more informed. And like I said, is I'm not here to insult, because I actually think that all 5 of you have your area of expertise and intelligence, are very intelligent people. But you know, you just have to realize that and rely on other people who actually are experts in the field. And I think that whether the decision is made, whether to get a tower or not, I think that the people who actually use the airport would be, have more security and also feel that they actually have the governances of Boulder City is far better if there is some participation in the users. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just for clarification, I believe that the last meeting of the Airport Advisory Committee, a motion was made to postpone any additional meetings at that time. That's just for clarification.
That was, and we've not been able to have a meeting because there's no quorum. There's only 2 of us on it right now. So
I'm just clarifying what occurred at the last
that was a year
advisory
ago.
committee
Right,
meeting.
yeah, that was
Thank
a year
you.
ago. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in public comment? Anyone wishing to call in for public comment? The phone number is 702-589-9629. Again, this is our initial public comment period. The phone number is 702-589-9629. And this is where everyone in the audience now gets to observe us, waiting for someone to call in.
Public comment.
Hi, this is Ainsworth Hunt.
Go ahead.
I want to close off the computer so I'm not hearing myself with an echo.
Okay.
I want to comment first on agenda item number 10 and thank Judy Hoskins and Tracy Folda for their service to the community. And I want to comment on agenda item number 13. Agenda item number 13 is a bit troubling as far as I'm concerned. I'm absolutely convinced that both Mayor McManus and Tracy Folda should recuse themselves from any vote on that item, as they are named parties of the suit involved. I do not want to see them getting any trouble with potential ethics issues, and this is troubling on that score. The amount of money offered to former city manager Alfonso Noyola and Stephen Morris, former city attorney, seems very excessive to me, considering that so far all the judicial decisions have been against the 2 of them, and they, at the present time, owe almost $82,000 to the city. However, if it settles the lawsuits and brings things to an end, maybe it's in the best interests of the city of Boulder City to get this done. I don't know what anybody else thinks on this. I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal advice. But I am convinced that since they filed suit against the city prior to being terminated, it would be foolish on their part to refuse this offer, which seems very generous to me, and have expectations of further recompense when so far all the court decisions have been against them. That's just my opinion on the subject. I believe that it is very strange for a city attorney to file a suit against his employer before he's even terminated. I have a hard time understanding where that comes from. So I wanted to go on record in terms of my thoughts on this subject. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The phone line is now available. Anyone wishing to call in, the phone number is 702-589-9629.
Public comments.
Oh, thank you. May I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Linda Barnett, and I'd like to speak on agenda item number 10. I would like to thank Councilwoman Judith Hoskins and Tracy Folder for their tenure in office on the BC City Council. There's no doubt that they both have stood tall and never shirked the responsibility of standing up for what they believed was right for Boulder City. In the poem Invictus, there are two lines that remind me of them. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you, Councilwomen, for bearing up under tremendous hostility and pressure, and for not flinching from what you knew was right for Boulder City. Additionally, thanks to Councilwoman Hoskins, who endured the social media frenzy about her being too old to be on council. She's led the way for others who also have garnered great wisdom in advanced years and have the tremendous generosity of spirit to stay in the game that desperately needs the wisdom that they have to offer. So congrats, Councilwomen. Great job. It's made all the difference to Boulder City, and a million thanks from so many of us.
Thank you. Again, the phone line is available. Anyone wishing to call for the initial public comment period, the phone number is 702-589-9629. Madam City Clerk, you'd mentioned that there were comments submitted.
Yes, Mayor, one. This is from Rod Woodbury. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, my comments concern agenda item number 13 pertaining to the proposed offers of judgment to Al Noyola and Stephen Morris. If either or both offers are made, will Pool Pact or any other insurance be paying all or a portion of the amounts offered? If so, how much? If not, why not? I did not see that addressed in the backup materials for this item. Also, how much has the city spent on attorney's fees in this lawsuit? And is Pool Pact now paying for the city's defense going forward? Thank you for your attention to this matter. Respectfully, Rod Woodbury.
Thank you. Again, this is our our initial public comment period. The phone number is 702-589-9629. All right, we'll give one more opportunity. Anyone in council chambers that would like to speak in the initial public comment period? All right, seeing no one else, then we will close the initial public comment period and move to approval of the regular agenda. Any changes, Madam City Clerk?
No changes.
Mr. City Manager?
No changes.
And Madam City Attorney?
No changes.
Thank you. Council, anyone wishing to make changes on the regular agenda?
No changes.
Anyone wishing to make a motion for approval?
Mayor, I move to approve the regular agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Again, Madam City Clerk, any changes?
No changes.
Mr. City Manager
No changes.
and Madam City Attorney?
No changes.
All right, Council, any changes for the consent agenda?
No changes.
All right, do we have a motion?
I would like to move to accept the consent agenda. I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that brings us to item number 9, which is recognition of the Boulder City High School boys volleyball team as state champions, boys baseball and boys golf for the regional champions. I believe we have some folks in attendance here. If you'd like to come forward. I would like to begin by reading the names of the boys volleyball team. Toby Shaper, Kenneth Rose, Cannon Rose, Gavin Kessler, Jared, is it Lamoureux? Max Roy, Tyler Lemmel, Roman Rose, Brady Sorensen, Braden Jones, Travis Hess, Ike Pappas, Nathan Pickett, Stephen Bricker, Quentin Basham. Head coach is Rochelle Huxford, Miss Huxford. Again, this is what season for the volleyball team now?
This is our 5th season at the high school. We had an undefeated season. We went 13-0. We didn't lose one set. And it's the first state championship for boys volleyball at our high school.
Outstanding.
And I have the best assistants, Kurt Bailey and Chad Robinson, who could not be here tonight.
Thank you. I do have a certificate of achievement here for you. Again, it is always amazing to me. We see little old Boulder City here. I believe it was sometime last year, Assistant Principal Mecklenburg told me that Boulder City in its history has won more than 125 state championships in various sports. 126 at this point. Thank you for that. So again, it's my pleasure to present this to you. Outstanding job, guys. 13-0 without losing a set. Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you. Yes, if you'd like to come up front here, we'll get a picture with you. Yep, you can line up here. I'm a lot shorter than you guys, so.
Just smile a lot. For the rest of the city council.
You'll disappear.
BC.
You guys can move down front.
She blends. Oh, look how cute. Nice.
Thank you.
Again, thank you guys. Outstanding season. All right, and we also have the regional winners, boys golf team, Blake Shaper, Kyle, is it Carducci? Jace Waldron, Jason Bardall, and Bradley Lawson. I know Coach Shaper was going to try and be here. It looks like he wasn't able to make it. Or are we just waiting for folks to file in and out? Principal Wagner, would you like to receive this on behalf of the golf team? Thank you. And again, outstanding. I know the golf team has done great work over several years now.
Yes, thank you.
All right, now boys baseball team, also regional winners this year. Troy Connell, Bruce Woodbury, Devin Lopez, Joseph Junta, Isaac Gibson, Benjamin Schaffler, Dylan Adams, Blaze Trumbull, Isaac Easter, Matthew Felsenfeld, Derek Render, Justin Jolly, Seth Hartgroves, Scott Body, Cannon Wellborn, and Isaac Tunji. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you. The boys baseball team and the golf team had outstanding seasons. I know it was a very short season, however, they played their hearts out, and it was a great time for all. So it was good to get out on the court and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. And in this year of the pandemic, having anybody outside has been great news. So again, congratulations to all the teams. All right, that brings us to item number 10 then. This is an item that I had requested, recognition of council members Tracy Folda and Judith Hoskins for their dedicated service to this city council and Boulder City in general. You know, to say this has been a difficult year would be an understatement by any means. I can tell you that, you know, I became familiar with Councilmember Folda when I saw her several years ago at the credit union supporting some cause. And for those of us here in Boulder City, we know whenever there's a cause, you want to be at the credit union to support that cause. That was just the first of many causes that I saw her get dedicated to better this community. Councilmember Hoskins, I've known for a number of years. Both of these individuals, I believe, have the highest integrity, and certainly their service on this council has been dedicated to one and only one thing, and that's what they believe is best for Boulder City. We did not agree on every single subject. That doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anyone else. But I do know that when there were disagreements, it wasn't because of them pursuing something that was going to be damaging or beneficial to themselves. It was for the betterment of this city. It was mentioned earlier this evening that, you know, serving in public office is certainly not the time that you get the most credit for what you do. For those that look at our agenda packets, you know that they can run hundreds of pages in length. And these two individuals took their time over the few days that we have when the packets are released to become familiar with that material and make those decisions, ask the questions that needed to be asked, and do what they felt was right for this community. You know, with the advent of social media, something that I view as maybe the biggest black hole ever invented in the universe, that becomes more and more difficult to do. But both of these people have done that and done that well. So I would like to recognize them for the work that they've put in to this council and for their service to this community. Thank you both very much.
This would make you the top.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this community owes its gratitude to these two individuals for stepping in during some very difficult times. Thanks to both of them. All right, that brings us then to, well, let me say this. Would either of you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I do want to say, I tried 50 ways of writing this, and it was very difficult to write. We've stood on opposite sides of the street. We've had disagreements. Words have been said. But I want to tell you that I respect you both, and I want to thank you both for your service. And for those things that we did agree on, yay.
Councilmember Adams?
I just want to say just how much of an honor it has been to be on this council with both of you. This obviously was an incredibly difficult year, and I feel it was a tremendous privilege to get to have the opportunity to serve with both of you. I know it's been said we've not always agreed, and I think that's good. I think that's what makes a democracy work. I know, having served in briefings, or not served in briefings, but been in briefings with both members, Folda and Hoskins, how much dedication they have, how much work they have put in, how much time and energy, to make sure that they're asking the right questions, to make sure that the work that we are doing up here is absolutely in the best interest of the city. And I have no doubt that what we have done up here has been in the best interest of the city, and we have you guys to thank for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Folda?
Who's going to go first? She was over there ready. Thank you. I'm very humbled by your kind words. I appreciate all the things that were said. I was surprised to have this on the agenda. It was a very nice gesture. When my name was pulled from a bowl, I said that night that I would do my very best, that I would do my homework. And I just want to say that I have done that every single time. I've read every single page of every single packet that's come before us, which is over thousands now in my 2 years here. I want to thank the staff and all the hard work that they do for putting up with me and all my questions. But I think that we've come to a really good place that they understand that the questions that I bring forth is so that the public can understand the decisions that are being made and why they're being made, and to make Boulder City a better place for our citizens. I'm not going to say I'm not happy this is my last city council meeting. But I am glad. I'm very glad and blessed for the time that I've been on here. But it is a lot of hard work, and I do want to say that I wish the best for the new city council members. It's a lot of work, and I hope that they're ready to put all that effort into it. And I just want to thank the community for the support while I've been on here and supporting my family, who have sacrificed a lot for me to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Councilmember Hoskins?
Yes, thank you. As we know, there in the packet we had a memo from Mayor McManus, and he mentioned that Councilmember Folda and I were appointed by the luck of the draw, and we were not elected. And because we were appointed, it seemed imperative that we made sure that we were worthy of those appointments. So I think we worked probably harder than we would have worked if we were elected. At least I felt that way. I've read all the packets through every single page, and I know that some of the staff knows for sure I've read all the packets. We both have fulfilled our goals by reading, researching, analyzing, and attending council meetings, as well as other meetings. I did not agree on all issues, but I voted what I thought was best for this city. And I've really enjoyed working with all the council members and the staff. And I wish the new council members great success. And if I can help them in any way, I'm there for them. Of course, staff would be able to help them better, but if they have any questions they want to ask, I'll be more than happy to help them. So a special thanks to the entire Boulder City staff and to all the departments for their guidance, their support, and their understanding and their patience in all the questions that I've asked them. And I wish you all very, well. And I also want to thank the people who spoke in my behalf tonight. A little bit tough to take when you're up here and not cry. But it's very, very heartwarming, and I love you all. Thank you.
Again, thank you to both of you, and especially for all the hard work you put into this. All right, we'll move to item number 11 for possible actions, matters pertaining to the Boulder City Municipal Airport. Mr. Bolt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Bryce Boulder, Administrative Services Director. And on behalf of staff, I'd echo those sentiments of gratitude for your service. Item 11 is matters pertaining to the airport, specifically 3 resolutions that, in short, will move forward the air traffic control tower. One of the resolutions is accepting the scope of services for the tower siting study. We'll also have a scope of services relative to an environmental study when that site is determined. And finally, the resolution 7301 is the FAA grant, accepting the FAA grant for the siting study. Myself and Airport Manager Adu is here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
Thank you. I know that this is kind of a time-sensitive issue with regards to the our ability to have access to the grant. About what is the time length that we're looking at for these issues here before us? Or it's not for these issues, but for the research that's being done.
The 2 studies, each study is about 6 months. We're going to try and overlap them a little bit and condense that time period. But I think it'll be, and Ms. Adu, I would anticipate less than a year for both of those studies to be complete. Do you agree with that?
Yes, it should take about 6 months to complete the siting study, and in that time frame, the environmental study should take approximately that amount of time as well. So we'll have them both completed by the end of the year, is what we anticipate.
Other questions or comments? I do have a couple of comments. Again, I believe that there are certainly other ways to go about doing this. There were comments made earlier that this council doesn't have the expertise. Well, I think that's clear that what these studies are about is to provide that expertise. I believe this continues to be the wrong solution for the Boulder City Municipal Airport. I understand why control towers might be desirable at some airports. I think that there are other ways we can address the safety issues at the airport. I also don't believe that my intent is to invoke any type of fear or anything like that. I think it's fairly simple and straightforward what can be done. I'm also extremely concerned about the direction that the airport takes with regard to Boulder City as a community. I've certainly heard from many residents that they're already bothered by the noise, the flight patterns of pilots, and I've been told, well, that will all go away with the control tower. I don't think that's the case. I think that this enables the airport to have increased traffic at it. And I believe that there, as I said earlier, there are better ways to approach this and allow us to continue to have a municipal airport that serves this community rather than the FAA taking over the development of the airport and pushing it into areas where it should not be. Therefore, I continue my opposition to these studies and the building of a control tower. Anyone else wishing to make questions or comments? Councilmember Hoskins.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to make a comment to a comment that was made earlier this evening that none of us up here have any aviation experience. I owned an airplane for many years. I was the president of Flight for Life of Ohio. I also was the president of Hoskins Aero of Ohio, so I do have some aviation experience, certainly not as much as some people who actually fly, I guess. But I am for the control tower. I have been for the control tower, and I will continue to be for the control tower. Thank you.
Councilmember Bridges?
I also want to just comment on a similar issue that my husband and I have been involved in aviation. He's been involved in aviation for well over 40 years, and we've owned numerous airplanes and flown them in and out of controlled and not controlled airspace. And I have been a supporter of this idea since it was originally presented. It was discussed back in 2011, and I continue my positive perspective on the creation, the building of this air traffic control tower.
Councilmember Folda?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for staff. Previously, there had been some studies done of preliminary spots of where the tower could preliminarily go. They did some site studies, and would this Kimley Horn and Associates be going off of that, or starting brand new all over with the new study? Or will they start with, this area looks best, and we'll go from there?
So the preliminary study was completed just to have an idea of where the best location for the tower would be. Mm-hmm. And those positions will be the ones that will be evaluated. And as they go through the process with the FAA, it's a joint effort with the FAA that we will move forward with. They will consider those locations, and if those locations are not adequate, then they will look at other locations on the field.
Okay. So it is kind of a starting over base. I know that there were about 4 preliminary areas done, and 3 of them were kind of they weren't done because of the utilities, lack of utilities to them, and the cost of running the utilities to them. And so less ideal location, but closer to the utilities was kind of studied. Will they just focus on that area, or will that go back to the drawing board?
They'll look at all the locations that we had preliminarily looked at, and just evaluate those locations. And part of that evaluation takes into the account what it would cost to develop that area, if that outweighs the benefit, putting it in a location where it would be more costly to put.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone wishing to make a motion on Resolution 7299?
I would like to move to accept Resolution 7299.
I'd like to second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I am opposed. Resolution 7300.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 7300.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed. Resolution 7301.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 7301.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I am opposed. Brings us to item number 12, Resolution 7302. Mr. Bolt, did I miss something?
No, I got the resolution number wrong in my head. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we're good.
No problem.
We are in the Zoom environment, and hopefully we can get that cranked up, and Mr. Tedder will join us via Zoom.
Yes, and this item is regarding the potential contract of employment for Taylor Tedder as city manager.
Thanks for doing my job for me.
No problem.
I appreciate that. And let's see if we've got everyone. Mr. Tedder, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Very good. And then just to let you know, Mr. Winchester is here. He's been representing the city in these in the contract negotiations. You can use his microphone. Thank you.
And Mr. Winchester, just to clarify, you are our outside independent counsel regarding these contract negotiations and wording and all of that.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. So I guess we have a possible contract that has been provided. Mr. Winchester, did you want to make any explanations or comments?
Yes, absolutely. There are 4 major areas of that are still under negotiation that the council will be asked to make a decision, and there is some new language in a couple of the provisions that the council will also be asked to address. And can I clarify which version do they have in front of them?
The one you sent on Friday.
Perfect. Okay. And of course, Mr. Tedder, I'll be turning to you for your input as well as we discuss these items.
Great.
Awesome. So the first, and let me get my computer up and running here. The first and obviously very, very important item for discussion is the annual compensation. The initial offer in the contract was for $130,000. There was a counteroffer of $148,150 that has now been reduced to $147,780. And Mr. Tedder, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but so obviously chime in. This is based upon the highest department head's salary. Mr. Tedder expressed his opinion, and again, Mr. Tedder, please chime in here, that he thinks, as he believes as city manager, that it's appropriate for him to make at least $1 more than the highest paid department head. So with that, Mr. Tedder, if you'd like to make a comment, please go ahead.
Yes, essentially, that is my reasoning behind the 147,780 number. It's essentially a couple dollars for rounding above the highest paid department head. The city manager has 10 direct reports according to the organizational charts that are on the city's website. And additionally, behind that number, it really comes down to the housing costs as well. They are, increasing continually, and it would really help to be at that level.
So again, the offer counteroffer is an initial offer of $130,000, and the current counteroffer is $147,780 annually. So if we could discuss that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges.
Thank you. I do have a question. I was doing some salary stalking, looking at different sites, not having all the numbers specific. In terms of the $147,780 being a couple dollars more than the highest salary, is the one it's being compared to the base salary, or is that the base salary plus other?
My understanding is the base salary, Mr. Tedder. Is that correct?
That's correct. So this is going off of the salaries that will be effective July 1st, starting next month with your next fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
Thank you. I will just comment that I do believe the 147,780 is a reasonable number. I think it is very comparable to it's very comparable to other regions, and I think it's under that and some of the other cities that neighbor us. So that's my feeling.
Councilmember Folda?
Thank you. I was understanding that this salary number came from the highest department head who had been here for a number of years. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And so obviously that employee isn't really at a starting salary base, but at a end of, being here for a number of years. And while I understand Mr. Tedder's need for that kind of respect and honor of being here, this employee, I believe, has been here about 20 years or so that he's comparing it to.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so I just want that to be in perspective, that you obviously, when that employee retired, there would be a huge gap again between where that next employee would start.
I understand that. The next highest level is essentially the next highest employee below that is about 144,000, just for reference.
Right. I just want to be aware that we're comparing to employees that have been here for a number of years, and this is your first time as a city manager, and to keep that in perspective.
When we started this process, one thing that was presented to this council was a range of salaries that were found in comparable communities in size to Boulder City. That's where the range came from. It wasn't made up. It came from that analysis of salaries from around the state. So I think that what we're looking at is the establishment of a range, not something else. So I'm not sure when a reference is made to neighboring cities. If you go to the city of Las Vegas, I think their city manager salary is something like $270,000 a year. City of Las Vegas was not used in this comparison because it's not a comparable city to Boulder City. So what was used was that comparable range. I think Councilmember Folda has a perfectly valid point that an employee who's been here for decades probably has had a number of increases over that period of time. So I'd be willing to go to 145. I'm just not comfortable with this, well, I've got to make $1 more than the highest paid when the highest paid has been here for 20 years. I think we need to work with the range that we see in other communities the size of Boulder City, comparable budgets, comparable responsibilities, all of that. So that's the number I would be comfortable with. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
I'm not opposed to the number. I certainly, like I said, I didn't feel that the 147 was out of bounds. It was certainly within the range that was set. It was within the range of the comparable cities that we were comparing to. So I am aware of that range, but I do think we also have to take into consideration that yes, it may be in cities our size, all around Nevada, but we also are closest to and do compete with Las Vegas, and compete is not the right word, but those are also our immediate neighbors, and I think it is something to consider. I'm not saying that it absolutely has to be that number, based on what we have and what is permissible with Mr. Tedder. I'm comfortable with, but I don't think it's unreasonable, but I think 145 is a good number as well. So I'm curious to see where the rest of council is.
Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, I thought the closer to 147, 780 initially was the combination of salary plus the other. And I'm not necessarily convinced that it needs to be $2 or $5 over the highest. However, there were comparisons in terms of salary with communities that have not had the real estate boom going on that we have. If our expectation is for Mr. Tedder and his family to move to Boulder City within a specific amount of time, houses here have gotten very expensive. So whereas I would think 145 would be a minimum, I could see closer to the 147 because I think that the cost of living here is a lot more significant than it is in places like Mesquite. I think that just looking at where where you're going to live and what it costs to live here. The utilities are not as expensive, but housing prices are. So I'll pass.
May I add something?
Yes.
One of the concerns that was raised by some of the members of council to me as part of this process was the current range that was established in the previous resolution. I've got the number right here. Give me 1 second. This is resolution number 7280 that was passed on the 25th day of May, 2021. Sets the range for the city manager compensation between $130,000 and $155,000. And one of the concerns that was raised to me was that if you peg the salary towards the higher end, there's not a lot of room for growth, or not a lot of room for pay raises. And so, as you know, the contract includes a merit increase provision. And, obviously you want to reward good performance with pay raises. And so that's another concern. Again, I'm not bringing this to you personally. I'm bringing this to you as a reflection of what I've received from some of the council members. So I wanted you to consider that as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Folda?
Thank you, Mayor. And that would be my concern, that if we start at the top end and they top out, I'm not personally about Mr. Tedder, but just in general, for a job, when people top out, they seem to lose interest or lose motivation or start looking for places other places where they can continue to grow. And that would be my concern here if we start too far on the higher end and stop having a place to grow. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gee, I don't know.
So I think the 145 would be perfectly fine. That sounds very appropriate. I would be very happy with that.
Thank you, Mr. Tedder. Mr. Winchester, did you want to move to the next item then?
Yes, absolutely. The next item is in section 5. These contracts include, let me step back a little bit. Yes, these contracts include default life insurance for the city officials and for department heads. They basically tee off of the department head's life insurance, which I recall as being $35,000. Is it? $25,000. Thank you. Mr. Tedder is requesting an increased life insurance equal to 2 times his salary, and he's proposing that any premiums for such city-provided life insurance be capped at $600 per year. That is the next request.
Thank you. Mr. Tedder, did you have any comments you'd like to make regarding this item?
Yes, sir. My current position, I do have a similar amount of life insurance added, so I would be losing that. So that's really the primary reason that I asked for this. And I do also have a personal policy of a similar amount, and it is about $21 a month. So I think it would be well below the $600 for the annual premium.
Thank you. Councilmember Folda?
Thank you. Is this something that our policy would allow to do? I know that we use what the department heads have, so is that something that we are able to increase?
We can check on increasing from that particular vendor, but in the past, we've gone with a separate vendor and they set up an individual policy. Okay. And we can do that through our payment system.
Okay, through another vendor if ours doesn't work, doesn't work out?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so then I have a legal question. Legally, if the package that we have to go with exceeds the 600 year for the amount that he's requesting, how would we be in conflict of our contract?
Yeah, I think you have to read the contract to say that the maximum premium is $600 per year. That is the specific number. And so whatever coverage that buys is the coverage that would be required by the contract, is the position I would take legally.
Okay, and that's written in such a way that we could defend that?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I would just say I don't think this is an unusual request. I also don't think the maximum of $600 per year is an overly significant amount. I have no problem with going along with this request from Mr. Tedder. Is there anyone who does have an issue with this request? Mr. Winchester, it looks like we're in agreement on accepting this.
Understood. Let me move to the next. This particular provision, this is section 6. This particular provision is not contested. This grew out of the discussion of the mayor's duties. The prior version of this contract had the city manager reporting to the mayor and basically requesting vacation from the mayor. It was pointed out to me that this may be outside of the mayor's duties under the city charter. And so I have drafted up, and Mr. Tedder's in agreement to the following language. Should I go ahead and read it into the record as far as how to report and request vacation?
I'm familiar with it. Anybody?
I know you've all read it.
Anyone wish to make Mr. Winchester read 3 or 4 paragraphs? Long paragraphs, I might add. And again, just for clarification, the intent was never to have anyone report to me personally.
Understood.
The way the system is set up, I was set up to be the person who clicks yes on these requests. I have absolutely no desire to click on my mouse button any more than absolutely necessary. So I have no problem whatsoever with this language.
Right.
Mr. Tedder, is there any comment that you would like to make?
This section really makes sense to me. The only thing that I can foresee is not exactly knowing a year in advance of when I'll take a vacation. I might know, hey, I want to take my birthday week off or something like that, but I would definitely keep in mind notifying you far in advance, as it says in the second half of that paragraph, to get any vacation approved if it wasn't in the annual request.
Right. And so just to clarify that point, there are 2 methods for the city manager to take vacation. One is the prior year to go ahead and set forth his plans to use vacation and get approval from the city council for that plan. The second approach, or the second, which is another way, an alternative, is when he has a desire to take vacation in excess of 2 consecutive business days. He has a duty to make sure that that vacation use is reported to all members of city council, either by himself or by a representative. Right. So there is a reporting requirement before taking vacation, and there's a requirement that he must record vacation time in the city's vacation tracking system so that it is always precisely tracked, and that any failure to do so would be taken into account as far as his performance evaluation. So that's an overview of how it would work.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Folda?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the language that it has been written and proposed. I know it's difficult when you have 5 bosses to, I know that that was administratively initially that the mayor would administrate that portion of it. But this way, council will always be aware of what's going on, know when the city manager's here or not. When you're accruing vacation or sick time, then there needs to be a way to show that it's being used or not. So I think this would adequately cover those conditions. So thank you.
Right. That's a great point. I've been formerly, obviously I counsel my clients, but I'm a former in-house counsel as well. and tracking the use of paid leave, especially for salaried employees, is very, very important. So I appreciate your comment there.
Anyone else? Councilmember Adams?
Just a question of clarification. So I understand putting the, a year in advance of the vacation, but you were saying it would be in addition. So if he was seeking vacation time outside of that year in advance, he would have that opportunity by reporting to the council, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that these are in addition to, because 1 year
That's
is,
correct.
it's good to have that planning, but we all know that things come up, so.
Indeed.
Anyone else? Mr. Tedder, again, it appears you've indicated that this language is acceptable to you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Sounds like it'll work just fine, and I'm very used to using the vacation tracking system in Munis, so works for me.
All right. Any member of council who does not agree with this wording? Councilmember Folda, go ahead.
There was another provision under the vacation which we changed from 5 days to 12.
Thank you very much. Yes, that is something that, thank you for reminding me of that. We had discussed, let's see here. Yes, thank you. We discussed providing him with 12 days from the beginning of his tenure, because there will be a lot of travel back and forth to Kansas. And so there will be some times where he will have to, like when he's moving, driving cars back and forth, whatever it is, that we will, the idea was that 12 days would give him plenty of paid time to make that move. And this contract also includes language that he must become a bona fide resident of the city of Boulder City within 12 months after executing the contract.
Again, Mr. Tedder, any concerns with that?
No, I think that's very generous. It's very appreciated.
Thank you. Any council members having an issue with that allotment of vacation time? All right, Mr. Winchester?
Great. The next is the next involves the automobile and phone. There's really no disagreement here at all. Mr. Tedder has agreed that he will use a city-owned vehicle. He did add the language, existing late model. So I wanted to be sure that the council was aware of that, but that there will be a vehicle that will be available for his use for his needs in his job. It's clear in the contract that his use does not include use from his home to City Hall or City Hall to home. So Mr. Tedder understands that he will be required to drive here, that will not be compensable. The driving from home to City Hall is not compensable. However, once he's here, if he has to travel in city business, he will be using a city car. On those occasions where a car may not be available, he has to use his own. He will get the standard IRS mileage reimbursement. And the other thing that's new to this contract is he has to report with his city manager report the date cost mileage and reasons incurred related to travel in his private vehicle. Was there anything I missed, Mr. Tedder?
No, I don't think so. Well, so the management of that city vehicle would be housed out of the city manager's office. We spoke with the administrative services director, Mr. Bolt. He said that one of the vehicles used to be assigned to the city manager's office. It had been transferred to the utilities department. It would be helpful to have the scheduling out of the city manager's office for that vehicle, and then of course other city employees could use it if it's available.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
I'll just add, depending on where he moves to, he might be able to just walk to City Hall, so.
Nice.
Or bike.
Yeah. Ah.
Anyone else? Okay, last call. Anyone have an issue then with the wording of this section?
Okay.
Mr. Winchester?
The same section, there's simply a statement that the city will provide Mr. Tedder with a mobile phone. It provides mobile phones to other appointed officials, and so he will take the mobile phone on the same terms that others do. Just wanted to point that out. That's not in contention.
Thank you.
Section 10, separation. Mr. Tedder and I agreed that it's a good idea to have some kind of a notice provision when the city manager wishes to resign. And so the contract now contains, and again, this is not in contention at all, contains a 30-day notice of voluntary resignation. If the council decides to shorten the 30 days, it has the right to do that under this contract. So it's simply a clarification of, in the case of a voluntary resignation by the city manager, he will give 30 days notice, and then the city can decide whether to allow him to continue to work for the 30 days or to shorten that 30 days period. Again, there's no contention on that, but go ahead.
Thank you. And again, just to confirm that with you, Mr. Tedder?
Correct. I just wanted this in here for clarity, just so it was spelled out in the contract what a reasonable amount of notice would be. And of course, if it needs to be longer and the city's good with that, that's great. Just so that it's in the contract.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members? All right. Mr. Winchester?
Yes, this is something that was not in the original contract. This is 11C. Mr. Tedder has requested a provision, and we've negotiated to this language here. And again, this is something for the council to decide. 11C would give Mr. Tedder the right to voluntarily resign in the event, and I'm going to quote here, that the city reduces his salary, compensation, or other financial benefits unless such reductions are applied across the board to department heads of the city. The way we've drafted it for your consideration is that he would be required to, in writing, provide a notice of request to cure the reduction. So that would give the city 30 days to address and cure. And if the city did not address and cure the reduction, then he would have the right to resign and he would get his severance pay. This would be the only scenario under which he could voluntarily resign and get the severance pay that's laid out in other provisions of this agreement.
Mr. Tedder, are you in agreement with the language that has been arrived at here?
I am.
Okay, questions or comments from council members? Anyone in disagreement with the wording here? All right, appears everyone's in agreement. Mr. Winchester?
Thank you. Next is section 13. This one is not in contention either. Mr. Tedder currently conducts on a part-time basis a class for Wichita State University. He does it online. And Mr. Tedder, if you wouldn't mind providing a little more detail about the class that you teach and how frequently that occurs.
Sure. So it's every fall semester. This will be the third time that I've taught this course. It's through the Master of Public Administration program at Wichita State, and it's on state and local economic development. And it's an online course. I already have it all built out. So really the only time commitments I have are meeting with students on a set time on the weekend and grading 6 assignments. So the fact that I have it all built out, I feel confident that it won't affect my position as city manager at all. And I would like to continue doing that. It's nice to give back to the profession, and I enjoy it.
And I'd like to point out that Mr. Tedder has agreed to language that if the city council at any time feels it needs to withdraw its permission for him to conduct this, that by a majority vote, it can withdraw its permission for him to be engaged in this specific part-time matter.
Thank you. And just by way of clarification, there is language in here that the employee shall not accept any other employment except that which is specified here. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's great. As a retired academic, I think that any opportunity to have access to current best practices and literature, even in online courses, in that it's your field, I think it's fantastic to be able to participate in that. So I think it's a great idea.
Anyone else? Again, I think it's actually in the interest of the city to have Mr. Tedder keep his hand in current education. So I certainly have no problem with this. And again, on this type of employment, I would certainly encourage Mr. Tedder, once he gets here and gets used to Southern Nevada, maybe look for that same type of opportunity here in Southern Nevada and come to council and see what might be done. So again, anyone in opposition to the language here? All right, Mr. Winchester.
Very well. The final item for discussion is Section 14, relocation expenses. A little bit of the story here. Mr. Tedder had initially requested some separate money for temporary housing while he's here looking for a place. He'd also requested that the moving expenses include trips for himself and his wife to come out and shop for houses. And after discussions, we've come up with the proposal of, instead of a $10,000 cap moving expense, that the cap be increased to $15,000, and all of those things that I just mentioned would be covered under the cap. Moving expenses, trips here to look for housing, any temporary housing he might need for himself and his family, storage, all those sorts of things. And again, it would be capped at $15,000.
I might add that that's a receipt basis, so
correct.
I would provide all of the documentation for that.
Right, and those receipts would be submitted to City Council for approval of the expense.
Thank you. So, Mr. Tedder, it appears you're in agreement with this language then?
Yes, that works for me.
Thank you. You know, I don't know if other council members may have commented on this. I know from my standpoint, I felt it was better than the five of us attempting to micromanage something. Put a reasonable amount, and I do believe that $15,000 is a reasonable amount. Mr. Tedder has a number of things here that that money can be used for. We know that it may be difficult finding a house here in Boulder City. Previous section of the contract provides for up to 12 months, and this can also be used for temporary living expense. I think this is the way to go rather than trying to manage Mr. Tedder's move for him. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
I'll just say that I absolutely agree with you on that.
Anyone else? Anyone in opposition to this language then in section 14? Well, Mr. Winchester, we didn't make you read the 4 paragraphs.
Oh,
so.
Darn it. Thanks for, that is everything. All the other pieces of language you've seen, and they were the initial proposal. So Mr. Tedder, was there anything else that we needed to cover tonight?
I just wanted to verify that the August 9th start date worked for everyone.
Well, I know we've pretty well worn out Mr. Mays at this time. But, you know, I don't think that's an unreasonable start date. I understand that you're currently employed and I'm sure would like to give notice to your employer. Mr. Mays, can you hang with us for another month and a half?
Yes, Mayor, I can.
Thank you. Anyone else regarding that start date?
With regard to the start date, just when the council votes on the resolution, just make sure to amend the effective date. We have it as July 22nd, so that would just need to be amended to August 9th when the vote is taken.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Any other issues, Mr. Winchester?
That is everything for me.
Mr. Tedder, any other additional comments?
No, I'm extremely excited to get started, and everything in the contract is very reasonable.
Thank you. And you know, unfortunately, these contracts are the sausage-making part of it that isn't always enjoyable. I do appreciate your cooperation. Clearly, as we went through this process, you know, you are identified as our top choice. So I'm very pleased that we've been able to work this out and come to an agreement on that. I know I personally look forward to you coming to Boulder City and working with us here. Anyone else? With that, then, I will make a motion for approval of Resolution 7302 with the amendment of the starting date of August 9th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Mr. Tedder, we look forward to seeing you. If you come out on a house hunting trip, let us know.
Thank you so much. I will. And just one moment. I'm so grateful, so excited to get started. Mr. Mays and several of the other staff have already reached out to me with some information, trying to help me get up to speed, so it's a little easier once I am there, and it's so appreciated. Really looking forward to working with you, and Boulder City truly is a dream community for a city manager. So I'm so excited and absolutely love the profession. So thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to your start date.
And if I may add, it's been a real joy working with you on this process, Mr. Tedder.
And that's got to be high praise coming from the employment attorney. So.
And I've really enjoyed working with Mr. Winchester. So
thank you.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone involved here. All right. We will now move then to item number 13 for possible action, matters pertaining to offers of judgment. Madam City Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is item 13, matters pertaining to offers of judgment with regard to the Noyola et al. Versus the City of Boulder City. We have Griff Hayes with Litchfield Cavo. He will be on the phone shortly to provide you a brief overview of this item.
And just to clarify, Mr. Hayes is an attorney retained for the defense of this matter?
That's correct, Mayor. Mr. Hayes is retained by Pool Pact to represent the city in this matter.
Thank you.
You're on speaker.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Hayes. This is Mayor McManus.
Good evening, Mayor.
I've introduced this item. Is there anything that you would like to say regarding the matter as far as explanation goes?
Yes, just a little bit more background about the lawsuit, and then I will talk a little bit about the offers. The plaintiffs brought this suit, and considering the city was being sued by its own attorney, the city council had to retain its own outside counsel and pay attorney's fees. The plaintiffs are the one that put the matter of their severance at issue in the case by suing the city in order to prevent the city from reviewing their employment performance. All of the plaintiff's claims that have been addressed by the court to date have been decided in favor of the city and against the plaintiffs, and this includes a judgment in favor of the city for $81,888.42, and that was against the plaintiffs. The city denies any wrongdoing or liability, but recognizes that it would be of benefit to the city to fully and finally resolve these claims that arise out of the lawsuit at issue. The offers of judgment that are being considered, they're separate offers that would be sent, one to the lawyer for Mr. Noyola, the other one lawyer for Mr. Morris. In general definition of the offer, it's a unilateral monetary offer with specific terms and conditions, with the idea being that if it's accepted, it would resolve all of the claims between the parties in the lawsuit. There are statutes in Nevada that permit such offers, and these offers would be made pursuant to those statutes. Once the offers are served, the plaintiffs have 14 days to accept them. If they do not accept them, and then they end up obtaining a judgment that is less favorable than the dollar amount in the offers, there are certain penalties that apply under the statutes. One of the penalties is that the city can recover costs and expenses incurred after the offers were served. So if there are any general questions, I can respond to those.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Folda?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one short comment that I want to make. And really, it's next month will be nearly a year since I added the item on the agenda to review the employment of the former city attorney and city manager. Those individuals decided to take matters to the court on multiple occasions since that time. Statements have been made on social media and in the paper in defense of their actions, but at the end of the day, the court has ruled in the city's favor every time we have appeared to date. It is my opinion that the plaintiffs would only make things worse for themselves by continuing to drag this on. This last court appearance included over $80,000 to be awarded to the city. The city is offering a very generous settlement and has acted on good faith to put the matter to rest. The city has and will continue to defend itself. It was brought up tonight that I may have an ethical issue with voting on this matter because I am named individually in this lawsuit, and I'd ask the city attorney to address that.
Absolutely. Mayor and council members, I reviewed NRS 281A. I do not believe there'd be a conflict of interest in Councilwoman Folda or Mayor McManus's participation and vote in this matter.
Anyone else? We do have a resolution here, two resolutions. Resolution 7303, which is the offer of judgment for Alfonso Noyola. Anyone wishing to make a motion on Resolution 7303? Councilmember Bridges?
Yes, I move that we accept Resolution number 7303.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution 7304 is a resolution regarding approval of an offer of judgment to Stephen Morris. Anyone wishing to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 7304.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, and thank you, Griff, for your advice on this matter.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move then to item number 14, City Manager's Report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Michael Mays, your acting City Manager and Community Development Director. It's at this time that when we discuss the City Manager's report, I usually say there's nothing unusual to report, and that is correct. However, we wanted to highlight some of the efforts the Finance Department has been working on to respond to questions and suggestions that the City Council has made, that citizens have made, to help improve the City Manager's report so that it's more transparent and easy to understand on the financial status of the community. And so I just want to briefly highlight some of the changes the Finance Department has put into place. So on page 215 of your packet, you'll see that Finance Department has separated out the capital lease principal and interest for the golf cart lease. This is again another way to improve transparency so you can see how those funds are being utilized. On pages 233 and 234, the Municipal Golf Course and Boulder Creek Golf Course revenues, you will see, came in much higher than the budgeted projections. On page 236, Finance Department has added a designated balance of $788,967 to the Extraordinary Maintenance Fund to designate for the pool in accordance with the Council's approved fiscal year budget 21 augmentation on May 25th. On page 237, on the designated and restricted cash report, we have added a line to reflect the special reserve for the swimming pool. And as additional funds are accrued, it can be reflected in that line so the council and the community can see the money being saved for a new pool. On page 238, at the request of the City Council and the Utility Advisory Committee, the utility cash equivalents, and investments is broken out by utility fund. On page 240, you will note that the Public Works Acquisitions and Improvements Report agrees to the Finance Acquisitions and Improvements Report on page 215. So these are just some of the improvements the Finance Department has made. There will be more to come. Just wanted to highlight those for the benefit of the council and the community.
Thank you, Mr. Mays. And again, you know, this report continues to get better. I think it continues to be more readily readable by the public, by the council. The money set aside on the pool, I also want to compliment the Finance Department, Diane Pelletier and her staff, for having come up with a financing plan that the voters, by strong margins, approved last week for that financing plan. I know during my briefing yesterday there was an explanation that the ending reserve balance has been moved to the end of the report. It still shows what our ending reserve balance is, but that then makes these other items clearer as far as where we are in the budget process. And some of those came out, you know, looking very favorable. You know, consolidated tax, I think, was at 200% or something. You know, those were because we had originally estimated the impact of COVID was going to be very significant on revenues. You know, for better or worse, that has not been the case. So those appear to be very high, but they're actually still below what we've had in the past. We just didn't see the drop in that as far as we thought might occur. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Hoskins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank you for giving the in-depth explanation for the finances. I think the Finance Department is doing a fantastic job, and I think some of these things need to be pointed out, and it's a little bit easier for the public to understand what they're actually doing. And you've also used some of the public's information and requests to adjust things. And I know that the Utility Committee will be very happy that that's all broken out. So thank you so very much.
Anyone else? Councilmember Folda?
Thank you. I was telling the finance staff just yesterday that last week I had a citizen who came up to me and commented about the city manager's report and how much it's improved and how more transparent it is. And that, along with the finance tools of the finance portal that they put on the website, where you can go and see every single expense and check that's been written. The finance department has really moved to making transparency number one, and showing where our taxpayer money is being used. So appreciate it.
Councilmember Bridges?
Yes, thank you. First of all, it looks like people are actually out playing golf. It's interesting to see the final numbers for this period compared to what the budgeted amount was for both golf courses. And I want to thank Diane and her staff and you. During the briefings, the kinds of questions that I have, I don't feel silly asking those questions. You know, why didn't depreciation show up in that column? Oh, because it's not applied until a certain time. And I remember when I first started looking at these numbers, and it looked just like a long checkbook and a couple of balance sheets, and it's all so very clear now, and I really appreciate their work, your work on this whole thing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Adams?
Well, not to be left out here. No, of course, absolute thanks to Ms. Pelletier, her staff, for doing this. The thing that I appreciate most is they've made huge improvements, and that they continue to do that. A lot of times it can be very easy to rest on our laurels to say, we did this, we accomplished something, we've made it more transparent, we've made it easier to read, job done. But that's not what they've done. They continue to think of ways to continue to make it more transparent, more readable, more easily accessible to the community, members of the council. It really speaks a lot to Ms. Pelletier and her staff.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, for nothing unusual to report, thank you very much, Mr. Mays.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to item 15, our final public comment period. Public comment during this period may be on any issue. Speakers will have up to 5 minutes to speak. And as always, we ask that you be civil and concise. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak in the final public comment period? All right, we will go to any call-ins. If you would like to call in for the final public comment period, the phone line is available. The phone number is 702-589-9629. This is the final public comment period. The phone number is 702-589-9629. Madam City Clerk, were there any comments submitted?
None.
Thank you. All right, hearing no one for the final public comment period, we will close that and move to our last item, City Council reports. Councilmember Bridges.
Yes, the only report I have is Boulder City has received additional funds for the American Rescue Plan Act. It's being administered through the county. So the application is through their CHAPS program. However, if you are in need of rent or utility assistance, please first contact emergency aid. Also, we have ongoing quality food at the food bank at emergency aid. So that's it again, a continuing story of you shouldn't be worried about how you're going to pay your rent if you're facing an emergency or dealing with continued employment issues in terms of COVID. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Folda.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to once again thank the community for their support in my time on this last 2 years on council. I appreciate it so much, and for the many friendships that have developed from me having the honor to serve on the city council. Thank you for all the concerned citizens who reach out to council and let us know. We love having comment and direction and things that we have to decide on. And thank you for those who are involved, getting out and vote and being involved in this community and the leadership and where it goes. So I wish Boulder City the best, and I guess this is my final farewell.
Thank you. Councilmember Hoskins.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Tracy, for everything that you've done, and I wish you well on your trip out of the state. And I, once again, want to wish everyone the best, the new council members and the new council. And I would like to say that I am available if you have any questions that you need to have answered. Since I've been known to be the oldest person probably on council ever, I think I have a lot of experience on a lot of different things and not actually gotten credit for a lot of the things that I do have experience in. So if you need anything, and I also know how to bake and everything like that, that most of you people think that, women should know how to do. But I will mother you to death. And I do thank you so very much, and it's been a pleasure, and it has been an experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple of things, so I'll try to be brief. A couple of weeks ago, myself and the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, Jill Lagan, had the opportunity to meet and speak with Senator Cortez Masto and discuss the importance of establishing the Aviquame National Monument, which was something that the City Council passed a resolution in support of. I think that conversation went very well. I also had the opportunity to meet with some of the council members of the Fort Mojave tribe. That was a very great experience, and getting to hear them in their own words speaking just to how important and how sacred Aviquame is to them as a people. Since then, I know the Town Advisory Board of Searchlight has passed sent a letter in support of establishing the Aviquame National Monument. So it is certainly, we've got a lot of good positive momentum in that, heading in that direction. There's a lot of work to go, but I continue to think that it is absolutely in the best interest not only of Boulder City, which whose boundary would be right against the monument, but for the rest of Southern Nevada as a whole. This weekend, I had the pleasure of going to Elko for the Nevada League of Cities Congress. It wasn't their typical conference meeting that they do yearly, but it was a great opportunity to meet with a number of the elected representatives and some of the city staff from around the state of Nevada to get to discuss some of the issues that we had all faced and dealt with this year, how we did that, to share ideas, to learn where the hardships are that we're all facing, where are our differences, where are our similarities, which was very beneficial. So I want to thank Mayor Keener of Elko for hosting the event, and I also wanted to give a special thanks to Councilman Cameron Kinney from the City of Carlin. Not only did he take the time to provide me with the tour to see Carlin, but also to provide transportation to make sure that I got everywhere that I needed to be this weekend, because otherwise I would have been doing a lot more walking at a higher altitude, of which I'm not used to. So it really was appreciated to have that opportunity to get to know that part of Nevada a little bit better. So, and absolutely thank you once again, Councilwoman Folda, Councilwoman Hoskins, for all you've done. It absolutely has been a pleasure. I look forward to serving with the new elected council members, which will have Councilwoman-elect Sherry Jorgensen, Councilman-elect Matt Fox. It'll be a pleasure to work with everybody. So, looking forward to what we have in the future.
Thank you. I'm going to be the broken record again about COVID-19 vaccinations. This week I saw that the positivity rate has started to go back up. Not by a lot, but it has started to go back up. We're certainly hearing from around the country that there's a new variant out there. It seems like we hear about a new variant every few weeks. We've done very well in this community. Our senior citizens responded early, took precautions. We are over 70% with our senior population. That's the number that we want to shoot for. Unfortunately, for those who are not seniors, we've not yet hit 50%. We need to get the numbers up. I want to encourage people, if you have not gotten it yet, if you're hesitant about it, don't listen to the noise, please. Talk with your doctor, talk with your healthcare provider, get some good information about this. There have literally been tens of millions of Americans who have received these vaccines now, with just a fraction of those people having issues, significant issues. We're going to be having 4th of July here. That's been a benefit of these vaccines. When these vaccines rolled out is when we started to see the positivity numbers just fall to almost nothing. And now we see them starting to tick back up. So I hate to be the broken record on this, but I absolutely don't want to see us go backwards on this either. I was able to get up there to Elko. I did the whirlwind tour, was able to attend the business meeting on Friday. It is always good to hear from other cities, especially the other small cities in Nevada. We have a lot of the same challenges, but we also have a lot of the same benefits that living in a small community can have for us. And lastly, I'll say, Councilmember Folda, Councilmember Hoskins, we are the winners of the luck of the draw in having both of you on this council. Thank you. And with that, we're adjourned.